I don't do any email at all, which is how I do my work when I'm actually working. The only time I do email is when I fly, even though it's what I'm supposed to do. Because when I'm on the ground, that's the time to do this. So your answer and your advantage is time. You need to outwork the people that have money. There's 3 variables, 3 pillars: time, money, talent. Talent is hard to control. Money you don't have yet. Time is your only friend. What you do between 7 p.m. and 3 in the morning will ultimately probably be the variable of your success. Now, if you lack talent, you can work for the rest of your life, you're not gonna win. So you need to be smart about that. And then there's the strategy of what you're building. If you're building a piece of shit, you've lost. But the thing that's most controllable in sales is time. So you were doing what?
I was marketing director for big companies.
Got it, and you decided to start your own brand. Awesome, and so what's happening?
Going very well.
Good. So what next?
Yeah, but the thing, sometimes you want to get people around you say, well, you're 48, you're starting your business now.
Sounds like losing players. Is that good enough?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's just, sometimes you doubt yourself, but not doubting yourself.
I get it.
You know what you want to do, but yes, you are 48.
Here's what's happening. It's interesting because you're very interesting to me. Here's why. You either were an entrepreneur and you suppressed it to do the practical thing and work in corporate America, or you were kind of maybe 50-50, right? Like you had safety, but you also, like you had entrepreneurial tendencies. You weren't 100% pure. Like for me, I would die. You know, like I can't breathe if I'm not entrepreneuring. And I mean, since I was like 9. I mean, that's why I got very bad grades in school. This wasn't, it's cool now. I was disaster in school and the immigrants got A's. That's how you got out, you know? So what's interesting is the reason you're letting outside forces seep in is because you're not, when you're 100%, you don't give a fuck. You're crazy to begin with. The whole thing's crazy, right? So if you're in between, I would tell you this, let the results and the way you feel speak. The last people you should be listening to is anybody else. If you feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, now, if your whole circle, if your spouse, if your parents, if your siblings, if your best friends are all pushing, hey, it can get hard. What I would say is find an outlet for support. Keep hanging out with these people, right? Offset the voices. You need the other voices. Watch content from other people, you know, like, but it is a blanket, like if you need that. So I don't consume anything because I don't need ideas or reformation or motivation from anything. I keep insular. But if you're feeling it, and I understand because you're practical, right? You feel a huge sense of responsibility. And so you're always thinking, what could go wrong? I would remind you a couple things. Did you have a fairly successful corporate career being a marketer? Good. This is going, how long has this been going?
2.5 months.
And how's it going?
Very good.
Good. It sounds like you're just a winner. And so if you happen to lose here, which we all do, I have a funny feeling you're gonna be able to go get a job.
Yeah, good. But I want it.
No shit, that's why you did it. But you have to understand upside versus downside. The upside is you build a whole life around something you wanna do and it's the best. And you make more money and you're happy and you're doing your thing. The downside is the other thing you left. So as long as you're not worried about what everybody says about you losing here, if you have to go back, then you're risking nothing. I get very upset when people try to suppress people from hard working without realizing that that's what makes that person happy. And you know, whether it's me or Jason Fried and DHH, like I think we actually agree on most things. I think the thing we probably would, I'm curious in a sit down is, you know, is it up to us to know when Dan or Johnny or Susan are on the verge of burnout, and or do we know, like telling people like you should work 40 hours a week or 160 hours a week eliminates knowing what they're about. I don't know what else to say. I think none of us get to sit on an ivory tower and tell people what to do. You know, do I believe that hard work is an essential part of the kind of success that people define? I do. Do I think working so many hours that it burns you out that you need to retire or quit or you're unhappy in perpetuity is bad? Of course I do. I think this is a self-awareness game, and actually I think it's a much more interesting game of like, do you know why you're working or what are you trying to achieve? I would go crazy sitting on a farm in middle America or doing 28 weeks of vacations, not what makes me happy, but I unbelievably am happy for the people that makes it happy. I love the process of building something the way I want to build it. I would go crazy having all people working remotely the way 37 Signals does. They would go crazy managing 1,000 people under a roof. I think it's about self-awareness. Look, I think that you always have to sleep in the bed that you make. And so I'm aware that I've been disproportionately passionate over the last decade around hustle and hard work, right? Like, you know, when I wrote Crush It, there was so much of that in 2009. I thought there was an amazing opportunity of the internet, YouTube, social media. That was true. People benefit from it, both of you, many who are watching. Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad when you get to a place in your career where you can drive traffic for others by just the sheer mention of. And yeah, it's not fun to be the subject of articles or keynotes where people are taking things and not
it's
painting.
Like bandwagoning.
It's just not the full picture. And it's very clear if you read or watch anything for even more than 5 minutes that I want people to be happy and be self-aware. Do I believe that work ethic is a foundational piece of success? Yes, I do. Do I want anybody ever to work so much that they get depressed? Of course not. I never think that money is the driver. And so I think whether it's lazy headline reading or not doing homework, yeah, it's not been the most fun to get dragged into.
No, I was like on my phone reading that article. No, and there's so many people who are proof of the words that you say, me included. So yeah, it's like, oh man,
listen, there's a byproduct of success.
Yeah.
You know, where people will, you know, hustle porn's a term, leveragepreneur is a term. Leveragepreneur is when you're using other people to build yourself up at the cost of the other person. And, you know, I think that as you get bigger, people will leverage you. And I'm okay with that because the truth always wins in the end.
Right.
And, you know, I know the body of work that I put out, my intent. And if you want to clip one thing or one definitive statement from one talk without the context of the whole thing, of course you can say anybody says anything. But the reality is that, you know, I believe work ethic is important if you want to achieve hyperbolic success. I don't want to tell people how to be happy.
Yeah.
So why are you telling me how I should be happy? And there's plenty of people that are super depressed that work 40 hours a week. Like, it's just hyperbolized link baiting, leveragepreneuring, and I'm okay with that. But at the same token, it's important not to not take other people's points of view into account. And I'm in a constant, you know, focus of that as well. And honestly, by the way, I'm getting a lot more 7 and 6, 7 and 8 than anybody would imagine. And on weekends, I'll go 11. I think sleep is
now we're getting the truth, okay?
No,
so you actually give yourself a lot of recovery.
What I'm doing is Monday through Friday, no question, that game can be 6 and 7. And when I play basketball, it could be even a little earlier because we have a 6 a.m. tip-off, so I have to get up at 5:30. But I almost consistently will try to make up time Friday night to Saturday, Saturday night to Sunday, Sunday. Like, I just don't know, like, it's just, I'm a big believer, that's all. Yeah. But now, I'm not worried about how much sleep they get, I'm worried about what they do while they're awake.